When we think of isekai, we usually think of overpowered MCs with girls and boys surrounding them throughout their journey. Yes, I'm talking about harem. Isekai is in general a genre of light novels, manga, anime and video games that surrounds around a person who gets transported to and has to survive in another world. With that being said, today we are going to talk about some of the best isekai anime that has been ever created. And if you have been keeping up, you must be knowing that there has been a lot of isekai anime being made during past few years. The genre today has become an overused and saturated method for anime production houses to make good money. So here is a list of top 25 best isekai animes which are worth watching. On the 25th number, the anime name is Princess Connect Redive. In the continent of Astria, a man falls from the sky, possessing no memories other than his name Yuki. An elf named as Kokoro finds him, introducing herself as his guide in the world they are about to traverse. With Kokoro's guidance, Yuki is able to learn how this world works. From battling monsters to handling currency, he learns everything. To earn money for their journey, Yuki and Kokoro decide to go to a nearby guild association to accept a simple quest. In their expedition, they meet Pecorin, a somewhat glutinous but charming girl skilled in battle. The next day, they also meet Carol, a cat girl specializing in magic. After some time, a bond of friendship forms between them, and the four decides to create a guild of their own. As they continue their adventures, they explore the world, meet new peoples, and will perhaps uncover the mysteries behind Yuki's missing memories. On the 24th number, the anime name is Kekai Sensen. Supersonic monkey, vampires, talking fishmen, and all sorts of different supernatural monsters living alongside humans. This has been a part of daily life in Helsalem's lot, formerly known as New York City. When a gateway between Earth and the beyond opened 3 years ago, New Yorkers and creatures from other dimensions alike were trapped in an impenetrable bubble and were forced to live together. Libra is a secret organization composed of eccentrics and superhumans, tasked with keeping order in the city and making sure that chaos doesn't spread to the rest of the world. Pursuing photography as a hobby, Leonardo Watch is living a normal life with his parents and sister. But when he obtains the all-seeing eyes of gods at the expense of his sister's eyesight, he goes to Helsalem's lot in order to help her by finding answers about the mysterious powers that he received. He soon runs into Libra, and when Leo unexpectedly joins their ranks, he gets more than what he bargained for. Kekai Sensen follows Leo's misadventures in the strangest places on Earth with his equally strange comrades, as the ordinary boy unwittingly sees his life take a turn for extraordinary. On the next number, the anime name is Do You Love Your Mom and Her 2-Hit Multi-Target Attacks. Forming a party with one's mother in an online game seems not only unlikely but also uncomfortable to most teenage gamers. Unfortunately, Masato Osuki finds himself in the exact scenario. After completing a seemingly meaningless survey, he is thrown into a world of a fantasy MMORPG, and his mother Mamako actually tagged along with him. On the top of all of that, Mamako turns out to be an overpowered swordsman, possessing power of 2-hit multi-target attacks. After minor tension between the two, they search for party members, meeting the merchants Pota and the sage Wise. If you don't like fan service, silly moments or general Japanese entertainment for actual Japanese people, you might not like this one. It's not a super serious and deep series. It's a light-hearted, fun, funny and a good ride. I cannot recommend it enough, so you should definitely watch it if you are into this kind of stuff. On the 22nd number, the anime name is Problem Childrens Are Coming From Another World, Aren't They? Izayoi Sakamaki, Asuka Kodo, and Yu Kasukabe are extraordinary teenagers who are blessed with psychic powers, but completely fed up with their disproportionately mundane lives. Until, unexpectedly, each of them receives a strange envelope containing an invitation to a mysterious place known as Little Garden. Inexplicably, dropped into a vast new world, the trio is greeted by Kurosagi, who explains that they have been given a once-in-a-lifetime chance to participate in a special high-stakes game using their abilities. In order to take part, however, they must first join the community. learning that Kurosaki's community No Names has lost its official status and bountiful land due to their defeat at the hands of Demon Lord, the group sets off to help reclaim their new home's dignity, eager to protect its residents and explore the excitements that Little Garden has to offer. On the 21st number, the anime name is I'm Standing on a Million Lives. Yusuke Yotsuya has always disliked Tokyo, but he especially hates the people who live in it. He would rather thrive in a virtual world than try to get along with those people around him. At the end of one school day, he sees the popular athlete Lu Shido talking to Kusei Hakozaki, who spends less time in school due to illness. But when he looks away from the two back again, they have seemingly disappeared. Many months later, Yotsuya enters a state of freefall, and the world begins to change around him. Dropping into a large pool of water, the first thing that he sees when he comes to his senses is an assortment of enormous monsters. He soon finds out that he has been brought into a game world by Shido and Hakozaki, and that he must complete a quest within 14 days. There is one thing that separates this world from the real world. Anyone who dies will be brought back to life in 30 seconds as long as one party member is alive. Tasked with numerous quests that increases in difficulty over time, Yotsuya, Shido and Hakozaki attempts to discover the mystery behind perplexing game world. On the 20th number, the anime name is Didn't I Say to Make My Abilities Average in the Next Life. Having stood out from others most of her life due to her exceptional character, Misato Kurihara has lived without neither the joy of having close friends nor the experience of having a regular life. However, after a sudden death, she was transported to a divine realm to be reincarnated and granted one wish to top it off. Thinking about the ordinary life that she has always wanted, she wished to be born as a normal person, with abilities that are average for the world she will resurrect in. Reborn as Adele von Ascham, the daughter of the noble, now she possesses magical powers completely exceeding what one would label average. Still desiring to carry out the life she wanted, she leaves her home and enrolls at a hunter school in a faraway kingdom using Mile as an alias. However, while having her overpowered potentials, attaining her goal will be difficult, especially when facing against the crazy situations that she falls into. On the 19th number, the anime name is Ascendance of a Bookworm. Urano Motosu loves books and has an endless desire to read literature, no matter the subject. She almost fulfills her dream job of becoming a librarian before her life is ended in an accident. As she draws her last breath, she wishes to be able to read more books in her next life. As if fate was listening to her prayers, she wakes up reincarnated as Mine, a frail 5-year-old girl living in a medieval era. What immediately comes to her mind is her passion. She tries to find something to read only to become frustrated by the lack of books at her disposal. Without the printing press, books have been written and copied by hand, making them very expensive. As such, only a few nobles can afford them, but this won't stop Miney. She will prove that her will to read is unbreakable, and if there are no books around, she will make them herself. If you are a fan of Isekai, this might be something unorthodox that you are not used to. Rather than decorating itself as a fantasy adventure, Ascendance of a Bookworm explores more of the mundane life of a bookworm. I cannot say that it's easy to recommend this show with the story's slow pacing, but if you want a different type of isekai than what you see too often these days, then this anime might just surprise you. On the 18th number, the anime name is Drifters. At the Battle of Sekigahara in 1600, Toyohisa Shimazu is a rear guard for his retreating troops and is critically wounded when he suddenly finds himself in a modern, gleaming white hallway. Faced with only a stoic man named as Murasaki and hundreds of doors on both sides, Toyohisa is pulled into a nearest door and into a world completely unlike his own. The strange land is populated by all the manners of fantastical creatures as well as warriors from different eras of Toyohisa's world, who were thought to be dead. Quickly befriending the infamous warlord Nobunaga Oda and the ancient archer Yoichi Suketaka Nasu, Toyohisa learns of the political unrest tearing throughout the continent. Furthermore, they have been summoned as drifters to fight against the Ents, people who are responsible for the creation of the Earth Empire and are trying to annihilate the drifters. As the ends grows more powerful, so does the empire's prediction of elves and other demi-humans. It is up to Toyoisa and his group of unconventional heroes to battle in a brand new world war to help the empire's subject, while protecting the land to claim for themselves and challenging the ends. On the 17th number, the anime name is Restaurant to Another World. Western Restaurants Nikoya is a popular eatery located on a street corner in a Tokyo shopping district, serving both traditional Japanese fare as well as Western dishes. This eating establishment is popular among Tokyo's residents, but this seemingly ordinary restaurant is also popular with another type of clientele. While the restaurant is thought to be closed on Saturdays, the truth is that on this special day each week, its doors are instead open to the inhabitants of other worlds. From dragons and elves to fairies and mages, this restaurant has no shortage of strange customers. The enigmatic chef, only known as Master, will be waiting to serve up their favorite dishes with a kind smile and keep them coming back for many more Saturdays to come. Finally, the story could be boring to several spectators seeking action, but this anime isn't for everyone. Also, it isn't bad changing the genre from time to time and relax a bit while you enjoy some different short stories connected with a restaurant. I will recommend this show, but with a small advice. Do not expect fights, wars, etc. The animation focuses on the dishes and their description, the feeling from each character towards a different flavor and savor. On the 16th number, the anime name is The Familiar of Zero. Louis Valerie is a self-absorbed mage in a world of wands, clocks and royalty. Although she studies at the Tristan Academy, a prestigious school for magicians, she has a major problem. Louise is unable to cast magic properly, earning her the nickname of Louise the Zero from her classmates. When the first year students are required to perform a summoning ritual, Louise's summoning results in a catastrophic explosion. Everyone deems this to be yet another failure, but where the smoke clears, a boy named as Saito Hiraga appears. Now Louise's familiar, Saito, is treated as a slave, forced to clean her clothes and eat off the ground. But when an unfamiliar brand is found etched on Saito's hand from the summoning rituals, it is believed to be the mark of a powerful familiar named as Gandalf. Wild, adventurous and explosive, the familiar of Zero follows Saito as he comes to terms with his new life, and as Louise proves that there is more to her than her nickname suggests. On the 15th number, the anime name is How Not to Summon a Demon Lord. When it comes to the fantasy MMORPG cross reverie, none can match the power of Demon King Diablo, possessing the game's rarest artifacts and unrivaled player level. He overpowers all foolish peoples enough to confront him. But despite his fearsome reputation, Diablo's true identity is Takuma Sakamoto, a shut-in gamer devoid of any social skills. Defeating hopeless challenges day by day, Takuma cares about nothing else but his virtual life. That is, until summoning spell suddenly transports him to another world where he has Diablo's appearances. In this new world resembling his favorite game, Takuma is greeted by the two girls who summoned him. The first one is Rem, a petite Pantherian adventurer, and second one is Shera, a busty elf summoner. They perform an enslavement ritual in an attempt to subjugate him, but the spell backfires and causes them to become his slave instead. With the situations now becoming more awkward than ever, Takuma decides to accompany the girls in finding a way to unbeat their contract while learning to adapt to his new existence as a menacing demon lord. On the 14th number, the anime name is The Ambition of Oda Nobuna. High school student Yoshiharu Sagara wakes up and finds himself in the middle of raging Sengoku period battle. He is saved by the legendary Hideyoshi Toyotomi, but at the cost of hero's life. With his dying breath, the warrior pleads to Yoshiharu to become a federal lord of his place. Now that the course of history has been changed, Yoshiharu pledges to keep the timeline from diverging any further. Yet after rescuing Nobuna Oda, whom he discovers is actually the fabled Nobuna Oda's female counterpart, Yoshiharu realizes that he has been transported to an alternate reality where most of Japan's historical warlords are now cute girls. To set things right and find a way back home, Yoshiharu agrees to become one of the Nobuna's retainers and assist her in the conquest of Japan. As Nobuna initiates her campaign, Yoshiharu discovers that the history he learned from playing the video game Nobunaga's ambition allows him to predict future events and turn the tide of war. Using this invaluable gift to aid the Oda's clan beautiful generals, Yoshiharu hopes to help his new lord fulfill her dreams and win the hearts of women everywhere. On the 13th number, the anime name is In Another World with My Smartphone. In a thoughtless blunder, God accidentally strikes down Toya Mochizuki with a stray bolt of lightning. As an apology, God offers him one wish and a chance to live again in a magical fantasy world. Toya happily accepts this offer and for his one wish, asks only to keep his smartphone with him as he begins his journey into a mysterious world. Starting over in this new world, Toya finds that it is filled with magic which he has affinity for and cute girls vying for attention. These girls are twin Lindsay and Elze, Yumina, Lin and Yae, provide Toya with no end of romantic frustration, but also companionship as he discovers the secrets of this new world. This show's purpose was to go all out in its premise and by doing so make fun of all the other shows like it that are afraid to break the status quo such as Blade Dance or Asterisk War, which just throws together templates and hopes for the best. On the 12th number, the anime name is My Next Life as a Villainess, All Routes Leads to Doom. Most people would prefer being the protagonist of a world full of adventure, be it in a game or in another world. But unfortunately, a certain girl is not so lucky. Regaining the memories of her past life, she realizes that she was reborn into the world of Fortune Lover, one of the games she used to play. Unfortunately, the character she was reincarnated into is Katerina Clays, who is the game's main antagonist, who faces utter doom in every ending. Using her extensive knowledge of the game, she takes it upon herself to escape from the chains of this accursed destiny. However, this will not be an easy feat, especially since she needs to be cautious as to not set off death flags that may speed up the impending doom she is trying to avoid. Even so, to make a change that will affect the lives of everyone around her, she strives not as a heroine but as a villainess. On the 11th number, the anime name is Arifureta. The ordinary life of a 17-year-old otaku Hajime Nagumo is disrupted when he and his classmates are summoned to a fantasy world and tasked with saving mankind. While his classmates are gifted with impressive abilities useful in combat, Hajime is belittled for only gaining an inferior transmutation skill that lacks any real offensive power. During an expedition in the Great Orcus Labyrinth, Hajime is betrayed by one of his classmates, plummeting him to the bottom of an abyss. Though he survives the fall, Hajime is faced off by menacing monsters and misfortunes that sends him spiraling into the grave nightmare. Desperate to live and return to the home one day, he resolves to fight for his survival, only to meet an imprisoned vampire he named as Yue, who is also seeking to escape the labyrinth. Taking an interest in him, Yue and a few others along the way accompany Hajime on his journey to find a way back home, while steadily transforming from a peasant to the world's strongest warrior. On the 10th number, the anime name is Konosuba. After dying a laughable and pathetic death on his way back home from buying a game, high school student and recluse Kazuma Sato finds himself sitting before a beautiful but obnoxious goddess named as Aqua. She provides the NEET with two options: continue on to heaven or reincarnate in every gamer's dream, a real fantasy world. Choosing to start a new life, Kazuma is quickly tasked with defeating a demon king who is terrorizing villages. But before he goes, he can choose one item of any kind to aid him on his quest. And the future hero selects Aqua. But Kazuma has made a grave mistake. Aqua is completely useless. Unfortunately, his trouble don't end here. It turns out that living in such a world is far more different from how it plays out in a game. Instead of going on a thrilling adventure, the duo must first work out to pay for their living expenses. Indeed, their misfortunes have only just begun. On the 9th number, the anime name is The Rising of the Shield Hero. The four cardinal heroes are a group of ordinary men from modern-day Japan summoned to a kingdom of Melromac to becoming its saviors. Melromac is a country plagued by the waves of catastrophe that have been repeatedly ravaged the land and brought disaster to its citizens for centuries. The four heroes are respectively bestowed a sword, spear, bow, and a shield to vanquish these waves. Naofumi Iwatani, an otaku, becomes cursed with the fate of being the shield hero. Armed with only a measly shield, Naofumi is belittled and ridiculed by his fellow heroes and the kingdom's people too, due to his weak offensive capabilities and lackluster personality. When the heroes are provided with resources and comrades to train with, Naofumi sets out with the only person willing to train alongside him, Malty Melromac. He is soon betrayed by her, however, and becomes falsely accused of taking advantage of her. Naofumi then becomes heavily discriminated against and hated by the people of Melromac for something he didn't do. With a raging storm of hurt and mistrust in his heart, Naofumi begins his journey of strengthening himself and his reputation. Further along, however, the difficulty of being of his own sets in. So Naofumi buys a demi-human slave on the verge of death named as Raftalia to accompany him on his travels. As the wave approach the kingdom, Naofumi and Raftalia must fight for the survival of the kingdom and protect the people of Melromac from their ill-fated future. On the next number, the anime name is Saga of Tanya the Evil. Tanya, the main character, starts off in a universe of an aesthete, sociopathic, efficiency-valuing salaryman with many personality disorders and complexes. Some normal everyday shit happens at work, but the guy that he just cold-heartedly fires at work that overreacts and murders Tanya by pushing him onto the train tracks. A godlike entity claims to be the god has a philosophical discussion with him before he dies. Tanya names it Being X since he is a non-believer, and then he gets told that he will be his last reincarnated cycle. After that, he consequently gets sent to be reborn into a different world. More war-torn world that contains magic and is reminiscent of the early 1900s in our world. He, who is now she, is reborn as a girl, and we become increasingly aware that she remembers her previous life as she reaches the age of 9. Now that she is a fully fledged 9-year-old, she chooses to join the military and rise through the military ranks in order to obtain enough achievements to live comfortably in the safety of the city. However, Being X maliciously interferes at very critical points in Tanya's life, and so she often ends up continuously fighting in life-threatening magical gun battles. The story follows him, now as her, as she rises to the top of the army ranks and become an overpowered, super strict, crazy, monster-like commanding officer. The story also gives some interesting perspective on the human nature of war and the geopolitical strategy. On the 7th number, the anime name is Grimgar, Fantasy, and Ash follows a group of novices rather than gods. The overall plot for the series of Grand Blue Fantasy revolves around a journey that the main characters embark upon, both to explore the lands but also to find the various legendary beasts that populates the land and protect them from the main enemy factions that are in the series. A substantial subplot for the series deals with the protection of the series' main heroine and the attempt to allow her to see and understand the world that she lives in, while protecting her, while at the same time foiling the enemy's major plans to expand their influence on the world. The series as a whole is set in a fantasy-like setting where both airships and magic exist and are commonplace. The world that this series is set in seems to have a number of different countries and locations that are populated with variety of different races, each with their own look and unique behaviors and manners. A key component of the setting of the series are the legendary primal beasts, which are creatures that were created by another race long time ago and left in the land to serve as guardians deities for the various locations around the world. These serves as a key part of the Empire's plan that the heroes need to stop as a part of the main story. On the 6th number, the anime name is Log Horizon. In the blink of an eye, 30,000 bewildered Japanese gamers are whisked away from their everyday lives into a world of popular MMORPG, Elder Tale, after the game's latest update, unable to log out. Among them is the socially awkward college student Shiroe, whose confusion and shock of this event last only for a moment as he is a veteran of the game. He immediately sets out to explore the limits of his new reality. Shiroe must learn to live in this new world, leading others to negotiate with the NPC natives in order to bring stability to the virtual city of Akihabara. He is joined by his unfortunate friend Naosugu, having logged in for the first time in years only to find himself trapped, and Akatsuki, a petted but fierce assassin who labels Shiroe as her master. A tale of fantasy, adventure, and politics, Log Horizon explores the elements of gaming through the eyes of master strategist who attempts to make the best of a puzzling situation. On the 5th number, the anime name is ReZero, Starting Life in Another World. When Subaru Natsuki leaves the convenience store, the last thing he expects is to be wrenched from his everyday life and dropped into a fantasy world. Things are not looking good for the bewildered teenager. However, not long after his survival, he is attacked by some thugs. Armed with only a bag of groceries and now a useless cell phone, he is quickly beaten to a pulp. Fortunately, a mysterious beauty named as Satela, in hot pursuit after the one who stole her insignia, happens upon Subaru and saves him. In order to thank the honest and kind-hearted girl, Subaru offers to help her in search, and later that night, they find the whereabouts of insignia that she is looking for. But unbeknownst to them, a much darker force stalks the pair from the shadows, and just minutes after locating the insignia, Subaru and Satela are brutally murdered. However, Subaru immediately reawakes to a familiar scene, confronted by the same group of thugs meeting Satela all over again, and the enigma deepens as the history is again repeating itself. On the 4th number, the anime name is No Game No Life. 16 sentient races inhabit this board, a world overseen by Tet, the one true god. The lowest of the 16, humanity, consists of humans, a race with no affinity for magic. In a place where everything is decided through simple games, humankind seems to have no way out of their predicament. But the arrival of two outsiders possesses a change. On Earth, step-siblings Sora and Shiro are two inseparable shut-ins who dominate various online games under the username Blank. While notorious on the internet, the pair believes that the life is merely another dull game. However, after responding to a message from an unknown user, they are suddenly transported to Disboard. The mysterious sender turns out to be Tet, who informs them about the world's absolute rules. After Tet leaves, Sora and Shiro begins their search for more information and a place to stay, taking them to Elkia, Inamity's only remaining kingdom. There, the duo encounters Stephanie Dola, an emotional girl vying for the kingdom's sovereignty. In desperation, she attempts to regain her father's throne, but her foolhardiness makes her goal unachievable. Inspired by the girl's motivation and passion, Sora and Shiro decides to aid Stephanie in getting Elkia back on their feet, ultimately aiming to become the new rulers of the enigmatic realm. On the 3rd number, the anime name is That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. 37-year-old Satoru Mikami is a typical corporate worker who is perfectly content with his monotonous lifestyle in Tokyo other than failing to nail down a girlfriend even once throughout his life. In the midst of a casual encounter with his colleague, he falls victim to a random assailant on the street and is stabbed. However, while succumbing to his injuries, a peculiar voice echoes in his mind and recites a bunch of comrades which the dying man cannot make sense of. When Satoru regains consciousness, he discovers that he has reincarnated as a goop of slime in an unfamiliar realm. In doing so, he acquires newfound skills, notably the powers to devour anything and mimic its appearance and abilities. He then stumbles upon the sealed catastrophe level monster Storm Dragon Veldora, who has been sealed away for past 300 years for devastating a town to ashes. Sympathetic to his predicament, Satoru befriends him and promises to assist him in destroying the seal. In return, Veldora bestows upon him the name Rimuru Tempest to grant him divine protection. Now liberated from the mundanities of his past life, Rimuru embarks on a fresh journey with a distinct goal in his mind. As he grows accustomed to his new physique, his googie antics ripple throughout the world, gradually altering his faith. On the 2nd number, the anime name is Overlord. The final hour of the popular virtual reality game has come. However, Momonoga, a powerful wizard and a master of the Dark Guild, decides to spend his last few moments in the game as the servers begins to shut down. To his surprise, despite the clock having struck midnight, Momonoga is still fully conscious as his character, and moreover, the non-player character appears to have developed personalities of their own. Confronted with the abnormal situations, Momonoga commands his loyal servants to help him investigate and take control of this new world, with the hopes of figuring out what has caused this development and if there may be others in the same predicament. And on the first number, the anime name is Mushoku Tensei. Despite being bullied, scorned and oppressed all of his life, a 34-year-old shut-in still found the resolve to attempt something heroic, only for it to end in a tragic accident. But in a twist of fate, he awakens in a world as Rudels, starting life again as a baby born to two loving parents. Preserving his memory and knowledge from his previous life, Rudels quickly adapts to his new environment. With the mind of a grown adult, he starts to display magical talents that exceed all expectations, honing his skills with the help of a mage named as Roxy. Rudels learns swordsplay from his father, Paul, and meets Slifty, a girl his age who quickly becomes his closest friend. At Rudels' second chance at life begins, he tries to make most of his new opportunities while conquering his traumatic past, and perhaps one day, he may find one thing that he could not find in his old world. And yeah, that's it for today's video guys. If you want more top 10 and top 25 videos like this, then check out my other videos over here. And that's it for today's video guys. If you enjoyed, please like, subscribe and comment your favorite anime name in the comment section down below. And I will see you in the next one. Sayonara.